Let's start the podcast. Cliff Jacks here. Thank you for listening in to Off the Cliff Sports. The first week of the NFL season has come and gone. We're starting into week 2, of course. We had a Thursday game. I don't think a lot of people like Thursday games. I know I don't. I think those players need that extra 2 days to recuperate their bodies. And I think the NFL and their greed for money and television revenue is harming these players. They need to really realize what they got and savor that product. First things first, I want to thank all my everyday Joes and my everyday Janes out there. I appreciate you guys. Without you, there's no me. We're not going to talk a lot about it. We'll talk a little bit because we went on a rant last week on it. Of course, Antonio Brown is in the news again. He did get released by the Oakland Raiders, only to get picked up by the New England Patriots, the evil empire. Because the evil empire says, hey, we're in the business of winning championships, Lombardi trophies, and we want more and more of them. That's not the biggest news, though. Earlier this week, unfortunately, a young lady came out and accused Antonio Brown of sexual assault and rape. The story is getting really weird. So, apparently in 2017, 2018, this young lady says she was Antonio Brown's trainer and that their relationship got close, and unfortunately he sexually assaulted her on a couple of occasions, and then unfortunately he raped her on another occasion, allegedly. All of this is allegedly because we don't know. So Antonio Brown's crazy situation and got a little worse. Now I'm gonna go ahead and tell you from the jump, from the information I've heard, I don't think he's guilty of these allegations. It's just me from the outside and only what we've heard so far. I could be wrong. I'm just going with my opinion right now. I think this is a ploy to get money. I also heard the young lady says she's willing to talk to the NFL about the situation, but the NFL has to wait until she gets married. How did this come out if you're about to get married? Strange. Really, really strange. But he put himself in this situation. And with all the crazy antics and things that have went on over the past 6 to 8 months, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen to Antonio Brown. As of this podcast recording, he was still eligible to play for the Patriots in week 2. Now, what's happened since then, you all probably will find out when I do. Like I told you, we're not going to stay a lot on Antonio Brown. We're going to let him go. I do know if he's able to play, he gives Tom Brady a skill set that Brady I don't think's had since Troy Brown. And that was back when Brady first started winning Super Bowls. That's the type of skill set I think Antonio Brown has. So Antonio Brown, Julian Edelman, Josh Gordon, and all those running backs that they have, that could be trouble for the AFC, other than the Chiefs. All right, folks, we're going to turn our attention away from Antonio Brown, and we're going to talk a little bit about some people that have not screwed up their lives yet, if they do. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us on Off the Cliff Sports. Cliff Jacks, I'll be back. Cliff Jacks back with you on Off the Cliff Sports. Remember, at Cliff_sports for Twitter, Off the Cliff_sports Instagram. Make sure you're following us. Make sure you have all your people follow us as well. All right, I promise you no more Antonio Brown talk this whole episode. We're going to go on to some more exciting news if you ask me. But we have this evil empire called the NCAA who makes billions and billions of dollars who hope this does not come to pass. The great state of California, the great state it is, has voted to pass a rule called the Fair Pay to Play Act. This bill will make it illegal for the colleges in California to take away scholarships or make players ineligible for accepting endorsement money. Pretty much what the state of California is saying is that our collegiate athletes should be able to be compensated for all they do, because that compensation will never match the amount of money that the NCAA evil empire is making off these athletes. Now, from what I heard, the NCAA has sent information to the governor saying why he needs to not allow this to go further. The bad part is the state assembly approved the bill 39-0. The House approved it 73-0. And those are Republicans and Democrats that voted to approve this bill. So the only persons left is for the governors to sign off on it. That's a lot of pressure to be a governor in a situation like this. If he goes against the House and Senate for his state, I don't think he's going to be governor much longer. The NCAA had the audacity to send him a note saying this would be unconstitutional, harmful, and would upend competitional balance. I wonder why they're saying that. They want to keep the money for themselves. That's why they're saying that. And, of course, us everyday Joes, Janes, and myself, everyday Cliff, they don't expect us to know no better because they don't value our opinion. We don't probably make enough money for them. But they know that something like this, once it trickles from California to the other states, that multi-billion-dollar share that they have is going to get cut a little bit. Athletes in college should have always been compensated somehow other than the free education. I mean, the free education is very vital, but the majority of those athletes are coming to certain schools because of the athletics and not the education. If it was just education, a lot of those athletes probably could have went to schools closer to home, schools that their parents went to. A lot of things play into that. It's just sad to know that the NCAA wants to stay in the olden days, I would say, instead of evolve into the future and to where everything is going. Our basketball professionals and NFL professionals are making some major contracts. Paying college players a little piece of a pie is not going to take any money out of anybody's pockets, or not enough money that they'll recognize it. Once you start paying these athletes a little bit of money, I think performances might become better, because the better you play, the more they pay. I just hope this governor decides to sign this bill through, and then I hope the other states out there start realizing what's happening. Because one thing all of us everyday Joes and everyday Janes that are really into sports know, the athletes may not be getting paid over the table, but there are some that are getting paid under the table. I'm not saying that's a good thing. It's kind of bad and to really think about it, but it happens. And I used to be one of those people that was like, man, that's so wrong with them. But then once you watch how the NCAA does these kids, the kid goes to the school because of a certain coach. This coach up and leaves. And the kid's like, I came for this coach. But the school doesn't let the kid up and leave. He has to jump through hoops. Life happens. College. We're going to get to college football later on in the episode, give you guys some of my picks and what have you. We're going to take a quick break. I'll be right back with you on Off the Cliff Sports, and we'll talk a little bit about the opening week of the NFL. Don't go anywhere. We're back on Off the Cliff Sports. Week 1 of the NFL season just passed, and there was a lot of shiny new toys that came out to play. One shiny toy, Nick Foles, signed a large contract, $88 million guaranteed, if I'm not mistaken, with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Nick Foles broke his collarbone in that game, and he's going to be out about 10 weeks. That shiny toy didn't work out at all for Jacksonville. So now they're going to a rookie who he actually looked good in the second half. He came in the game, threw for about 180 yards. So looked pretty decent. But he was going against the Chiefs defense, who are not world beaters, just their offense. He had some interesting games. Another team with some shiny new toys, the Cleveland Browns, and all their expectations, had a home game against the Tennessee Titans. The Cleveland Browns got beat 43-13. That's right, you heard me. They got beat 43-13 in their home opener. Cleveland, of course, has Odell Beckham, who joined Jarvis Landry. They have Nick Chubb, starting running back. They have Kareem Hunt, who's suspended for the first 8 games. And they have the new quarterback that they want to make a star, Baker Mayfield. Someone should have told the Browns, you don't win because of what people put on paper. Because the Tennessee Titans brought their lunch, they brought an afternoon snack, and they brought dinner. 43-13. So if you guys only watch your local games and didn't get to see any of that game, it was real nasty. Some other new toys that came out to play with us. The New York Jets has a new coach. Adam Gase came from Miami. Lots of expectations. The Jets came out on fire in the first half. 16-3 lead going into the fourth quarter over the Buffalo Bills, and they lost. Up 16-3, and they lost in the fourth quarter. 17-16 final score to the Bills, who Josh Allen, their starting quarterback. I don't know if Josh Allen's going to be the guy. He's an athlete, so he's mobile. He can run a little bit, but dropping back and making passes, it hadn't came together for him. Now, whether it's him or whether it's the offensive scheme, Buffalo still has a few issues. Some other games you had the Chargers beat the Drew Luck-less Colts, a game that went to overtime. Pretty exciting game. Jacoby Brissett is going to be pretty solid for the Colts. He's not going to be just a guy. He's going to keep them in some games and help them win some games. Probably the most exciting game in week 1 was the Monday night game between the Texans and the Saints. The Saints won the game on a 58-yard field goal as time expired. That was one of the more exciting games of the week. Some good hitting in the game, some nice passing, touchdown passes, some solid defense when needed. Pretty exciting. Your defending champs, embarrassed the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers look like they didn't come to play. I'm really wondering if Big Ben only came back because the salary is nice. Pretty nice salary. He's been saying the last 2 years, I don't know if I want to play anymore, thinking about retiring. They did not look good at all week one. Hopefully week two here, the Steelers have a different type of mind frame, or I could see some changes. Mike Tomlin, been one of the longest tenured coaches. His time could be up if he can't get it turned around. I think if they don't make the playoffs, if the Steelers don't make the playoff, I think Tomlin is gone. Another new shiny toy that was here last year, but this year he's given the ropes as the starting quarterback. Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens beat the Miami Dolphins or the Miami Hurricanes, whichever one you want to call them, because they did look like a college team, 59-10. That was embarrassing. But Lamar Jackson, that nice new shiny toy, they let him throw the ball. He didn't really run the ball, but I think 4 times, and they wasn't long runs. He passed for over 300 yards, 5 touchdowns. He had a really good day. Again, we're not going to put too many expectations because it was Miami, and they did look like a junior college team. So we're not going to put too much on it. Another team that dropped the ball this past weekend, the Atlanta Falcons, went to Minnesota and got beat 28-12. Their offense looked pathetic. The defense couldn't stop the run. And their head coach is a defensive guy. I think his job's on the line this year also. If they don't make the playoffs, I think he could be out of employment. And last and definitely least, my own Denver Broncos lost to the Oakland Raiders on Monday night, 24-16. Oakland's star receiver wasn't there because they cut him on Saturday, and the Broncos still lost. Our head coach was there in his first game as a head coach, 61-year-old. I'm not happy with the Broncos coaching selections, and it's going to be a tough year for me because it's my team, so I want them to win, but then I want them to lose because I think we need to make some changes. But this is not about me, guys. I'm just one everyday Cliff. Let's talk about other people. Week 2 is going to have some interesting games too, but I guess I do need to mention the Dallas Cowboys beat the New York Football Giants also, 35-17, in a game that wasn't close other than the first quarter. After the first quarter, it wasn't a game. The Cowboys imposed their will, and the Giants looked like a college team as well. So, living in Dallas, Texas area, my head, all I hear every day is Dallas this, Dallas that. Everyone in this area really feels that this is finally their year, the Cowboys' year to hold that Lombardi trophy. I'm enjoying it because I know the more they win come playoff time, if they lose in one of those first couple games, there's going to be suicide watch in the DFW. Just thoughts. And I did pick the Eagles to win the East, so I don't even think they're going to win their division. Week 2 is going to bring us some interesting games too, folks. So hopefully you listen to this on Saturday so you can get prepared for week 2. And we're going to talk about those games, some of those games, and I'll give you my picks for the games we talk about later on in the show. All right, you're tired of hearing my voice. Let's take a quick break and we'll be back. Talk some basketball, update you on some NHL and some MLB. Don't go anywhere on Off the Cliff Sports. NBA action is fantastic. This upcoming NBA season is going to be one of the best, I think, in a long time. We have a lot of teams that have a chance to hoist up the championship trophy. We're going to call it the dynamic duo era. You have Russell Westbrook and James Harden in Houston, LeBron James, Anthony Davis in LA. You have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in LA. You have Steph and Clay plus Draymond in Golden State or San Francisco because they are moving. Dynamic duos are going to run amok this year. You even have KD and Kyrie in Brooklyn whenever KD comes back. It's going to be great. But right now, NBA news. Joe Johnson, former NBA great who actually played in the Big Three League this past year. He actually won the MVP and he took his team to the championship. Signed on with the Detroit Pistons to a small one-year contract. That's a great deal for the Big Three because it's showing that league is important and that league has some staying power. 3-on-3 basketball with a lot of vets that are not in the league anymore, and some of them definitely could be, and Joe's an example. I think Steven Jackson be balling out in the Big Three as well. He probably could be in the league. But for some reason here or there, ownerships have moved on for some of the vets. Other important NBA news. Team USA was playing in the FIBA World Cup basketball tournament. One thing that tournament does is help teams qualify for the Olympics, international basketball. Of course, it's way bigger for some of the foreign countries than it is for us in the U.S. Well, Team USA actually lost 2 games this past week. And the best they can finish in this tournament is 7th place. That's a bummer. That first loss snapped a 58-game winning streak for the USA. To me, this is a bunch of nothing because, like myself, I believe a lot of you everyday Joes and everyday Janes out there, you probably can care less about the FIBA World Cup in basketball. One reason, this is not hockey. World Cup in hockey comes around once every 4 years, and it's a big event worldwide, men's side and women. For the U.S., it's probably bigger for us women because our men hadn't won nothing. They don't win. The women win, so we have something to be proud about. But even the men's side of things you watch because it's a large event. It's not the same in the NBA. Most of the NBA players, whether you're from Turkey, Greece, Russia, China, Italy, Paris, if you're a baller, you're going to come play in the NBA. That's just the way things are. In the past, when the Dream Team finally was formed, there was not as many international players that balled like we do in the States. Nowadays, if you don't have your top-of-the-line superstar athletes, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Anthony Davis, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, if you don't have those guys, your 5th, 6th, 7th man on your bench can get beaten by some of the European teams because those guys got talent, and a lot of that talent is in the NBA. Just the nature of the beast. This NBA topic is going to roll us into our favorite segment of the day, Top of the Cliff. We might as well just go ahead and jump right into it. I'm going to invite Jerry Colangelo to the Top of the Cliff this week. Jerry Colangelo is the director of USA Basketball. I'm inviting him to the Top of the Cliff because he's arrogant, and some statements you should never say because what they are is they're underlying threats. And for people that don't pay attention or if you don't listen to it, it may go under the radar what you're saying. But for us that pays attention to some of these things, We see underlining. We can see the words you're saying. Mr. Colangio made a statement today that he's going to remember all those players that dropped out of Team USA basketball this year. He'll remember who they are. Pretty much what he is telling us is that he's pissed off because we had players, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis. A lot of those guys decided not to play Team USA ball this year. They decided to say, hey, no, I'm going to stay home. I'm going to work out with my NBA team, the team that pays my salary, and have my family time instead of go grind through Team USA basketball. He feels like those players stood him up and did a disservice to the United States. He's probably one of the very few that think that way. So, Jerry Colangelo, please join me at the top of the cliff because of your old-timey thinking and the fact that you don't realize these guys have a life too. Yeah, it's an honor in playing in the Olympics. That honor of playing in the Olympics in basketball is not as big as that honor of winning an NBA championship and the ownership that pays you millions and millions of dollars to help them win that NBA championship. So, Jerry, when you come up to the top of the cliff to visit me, I can't tell you what to do when you come up here, but I do want you to join me on the top of the cliff. International basketball is not exciting for the USA. You should know that more than anybody. Folks, that's top of the cliff for today. Me and Jerry gonna sit up here a while until he decide what he want to do. We're gonna take a quick break. We'll be back on Off the Cliff Sports. Don't go anywhere. Remember, Cliff_sports is the Twitter handle. Very active on Twitter. All right, folks, the National Hockey League starts up its season in about 20 days, maybe a little under 20 days. It seems like their breaks are really short. Hockey just ended like 2 months ago. Their breaks are shorter than the NFL or NBA, I think. I'm getting more and more into hockey. We have a local team, the Dallas Stars, who we're looking to get back to the playoffs, back-to-back seasons. I think this year they have a good chance of competing. Hockey's a different sport. I read an article a week ago that said actual fighting in hockey went down last year. I guess I just got some good games because I saw some nice fights, in-game fights. But I know in the playoffs the fighting stops because hurting your team with those penalties, it's a big deal. Of course, I'll give you more information once hockey kicks off for all those hockey fans out there. I can't tell you my favorite hockey player just got traded to the New Jersey Devils. Subban is getting engaged to Lindsey Vonn. That's an interesting couple. I like Subban because he's very flamboyant, and I think he's going to like being in the big city now. New Jersey, New York. I think it fits his personality. I mean, my favorite player, of course, I do know Sid the Kid is the best hockey player out there. Some of you Alex Ovechkin fans probably are going to disagree with me. But if you do, let me know. On to Major League Baseball, who the season is slowly winding down. They play baseball for so long, you just start to get tired of it. Some bad news. Last year's Major League MVP winner, Christian Yelich, is out for the season. He injured his knee, and chances are he's probably not going to win the MVP now since he's missed the last few games and will be out the rest of the season. Somehow he broke his kneecap. Well, a foul ball off his kneecap. He ended his season with 44 home runs, 97 RBIs, and was batting 329. That's ridiculous numbers. So that opens up the door for some of the other home run hitters since we won't have a repeat MVP in my eyes, but I could be wrong. Hey, you never know. You never know. Anaheim Angels star, I can't pronounce his name. He's from China, but he was a dual star. He pitched and played in the field. Last year he pitched, he hurt himself, so he had Tommy John surgery. So their idea this year, he couldn't pitch this year because of the surgery, but he was able to bat and DH for the team. Lo and behold, he's having to have knee surgery. So not only can he not pitch, now he's having knee surgery. And it looks like him moving over to Major League Baseball from the Japanese Baseball League. He shows flashes that he could be an unbelievable player, but now 2 injuries in 2 years, it's not looking that good for the young guy. It's a different game playing ball overseas than playing ball over here in the United States. So those 2 players both are stars in our league that we're going to miss for the end of the season. Hope for both of them recover and get back for next year. Of course, the Yankees are still winning the American League. They have a 2-game lead on the Houston Astros for the overall league title. Both of them looks like they're going to hit 100 games, win 100 games, I should say, this year. That's great. The Detroit Tigers have already lost over 100 games, and the Baltimore Orioles will be soon joining them with over 100 games lost. It really sounds bad to lose 100 games in a sport in the same year. That sounds horrible. Once they get to like 85 games or something, I think they should probably just say, hey, we're going to cut it off right here, and your games are only going to last 7 innings. Because that's pathetic. What that tells you is, 1, either the players are not trying, 2, the owners are not putting money into the team. Baseball, this is the part of baseball that has to change, I think. In the National League, the Dodgers have 95 wins. They're closing in on 100. And the actual Atlanta Braves are closing in on 100. They're over 90 as well. The Miami Marlins have over 95 losses, so they're closing in on that magic 100 number as well. It's sickening to think a team could lose that many games. But we only have about less than 20 games for most teams to go. So we're almost the good time of Major League season, the playoffs, when things really slow down and games are really won and lost by effort. I mean, you know what each team does well. It's all about matchups and effort once it gets to the playoffs. Playoff time, we'll have some more in-depth playoff coverage for Major League Baseball. Guys, we're going to come back, and ladies, come back college football time. Last week, the LSU Tigers went to Austin, Texas, and made the Big 12's best team look really bad, defensively wise. Also, the Texas A&M Aggies went up to Clemson and came back with their tail stuck between their legs. We're going to talk about in this week any good games, what we're going to see happening. Off the Cliff Sports. Don't go anywhere, folks. We're back on Off the Cliff Sports. Thank you for tuning in. Want to give a special shout out to D. Shay's Barbecue and Catering. If you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, pull them up on Instagram, D. Shay's Barbecue and Catering. No group too big, no group too small. Check it out. NCAA football week 3 is about to hit us, and it's pretty light schedule. To be honest with you, I think the best game of the week happened on Friday. That game was Washington State and Houston. Every other game, you pretty much got ranked teams against non-ranked teams. Oklahoma travels to Southern Cal to take on UCLA. That's probably going to be a beatdown. UCLA is 0-2. You also have, I think, probably the best Saturday game. The number 9th ranked Florida Gators play the Kentucky Wildcats. Both teams are undefeated so far. That may be the best game of the weekend. You also have a pretty decent game. The North Texas Eagles going up against the Cal Bears. That game might be interesting. Neither team is ranked, but I think might be some fireworks in that game as well. So kind of a light schedule. Alabama plays host to South Carolina. Well, they're on the road at South Carolina. This Carolina team is not going to put up a fight, so I don't think we're going to see a lot of fight from that team. One game that everybody should look out for is nothing on the line, but the Tennessee Volunteers, who are 0-2, play host to Chattanooga, who is 1-1. That game could turn out to be a disaster for Tennessee. Early start on that game, 11 a.m. Central Time kickoff. Early start, but it could be a disastrous game if somehow Chattanooga ends up beating Tennessee. You're going to see a lot of boosters up in arms up there in the Volunteer State. So, light week in college football for us. Light week. Let's move back over to the NFL. It is that time of year. And we have our games of the week. I think our biggest game of the week this week will be the Los Angeles Rams and the New Orleans Saints, a rematch of the NFC Championship game where we had the no call that ruined the Saints season and helped get the Rams. I'll say help get the Rams because there was football played after that play. This time around, I'm going to pick the Rams to beat the Saints at home. The Rams are going to win the game. I think they want to prove that, hey, we don't need a bad call to beat you. They have the cornerbacks and the defense to do it also. So going with the Rams over the Saints. The Sunday night game will be pretty interesting. You got the Eagles and the Falcons. The Falcons didn't show up in week 1. Maybe they'll show up at home this week. The Eagles didn't show up for the first half of week 1, but they came back in the second half and did what they had to do. So actually I'm going to roll with the Eagles to beat the Falcons and the Falcons to drop to 0-2. Something just doesn't feel right in Atlanta right now. I don't know what it is, but something's off. The Chiefs and the Raiders, of course, we're going to go with the Chiefs in that one. Another pretty good game, a divisional game. Both teams are 0-1, the Houston Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think Houston is going to come out on top at home in that one. The defense is going to be pretty high level, high intensity, but I think Houston can put a few points on the board against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's reeling after Nick Foles went down last week. I think they're going to take a little time to get back up and going. Another game which really doesn't have a lot at stake. The only thing that's been talked about, the Baltimore Ravens and the Arizona Cardinals. The Ravens start Lamar Jackson. The Cardinals start Kyler Murray. And they say those two young quarterbacks are two of the youngest to face off against each other at their age level that are African-American quarterback against quarterback. So the Ravens are going to knock the Cardinals off. I think it'll be pretty easy. And, of course, the Cowboys play the Redskins. The Cowboys have another bye week. And After this bye week, week 3, they go on to play the Miami Dolphins. So that's what we got going on there. Those are some of the pretty interesting games in the NFL. The rest of the games are so. You do have Seattle and Pittsburgh playing. Seattle got to come all the way to Pittsburgh for a noon kickoff, so that's going to be a tough one for Seattle. But I don't know if Pittsburgh's back together or not. We'll see. If I had to pick that game right now, I'm going to pick the Steelers because they're at home. That's our NFL picks for the week, folks. We're going to come back after a quick break, give you a couple Cliff Notes for this week, your quote of the day, and get you out of here on Off the Cliff Sports. Don't go anywhere. All right, guys. Cliff Notes today are going to be a little different. I got some information that just came in that we're going to discuss. I know I said no Antonio Brown talk. I promise you guys, I'm sorry. I lied. It looks like the helmet company that Antonio Brown made a deal with to wear their product has canceled their deal with Antonio Brown. They said they have a lot of athletes, professional, non-professional, that is going to be wearing their products, and they hope that those athletes enjoy the product and yada, yada, yada. Pretty much just saying, Antonio Brown, we don't want you to be our spokesperson. Your second Cliff Note today is going to go back to the topic at the beginning of the show about the Fair Pay to Play Act up in California. Courtesy of ESPN First Take, the show, Stephen A. Max Kellerman had Tim Tebow on to discuss it. I'm going to play a little bit of what Tebow had to say, which is really pushing a couple buttons, and I know there's a lot of people buttons it's going to push, but let me play a little bit of that and give you what I feel he's saying and why I feel that's an issue. All right, take a listen, folks.
I feel like I have a little credibility and knowledge about this because when I was at the University of Florida, I think my jersey was one of the top-selling jerseys around the world. It was like Kobe, LeBron, and then I was right behind them, and I didn't make a dollar from it. But nor did I want to, because I knew going into college what it was all about. I knew going to Florida, my dream school, where I wanted to go, the passion for it, and if I could support my team, support my college, support my university, that's what it's all about. But now we're changing it from us, from my university, from being an alumni where I care, which makes college football and college sports special, to then, okay, it's not about us, it's not about we, it's just about me. And yes, I know we live in a selfish culture where it's all about us, but we're just adding and piling it onto that, where it changes what's special about college football. We turn it into the NFL, where who has the most money, that's where you go. That's why people are more passionate about college sports than they are about NFL. That's why the stadiums are bigger in college than they are in the NFL, because it's about...
All right, folks, I cut it off right there. He went on a little bit more about what he had to say. As a college football player, Tim Tebow was probably one of the best. His inspiration to his team and what he could do on the field, not necessarily what he can do on the field. Let's be real. He can't throw the ball a lick, but his determination, his will, all of those things was A+. And he was able to get Florida some championships behind that. The problem with what Tim Tebow is saying is a couple things, twofold. And I really hate bringing up race, but race is America, unfortunately. Everything is two-sided in America. You have side A and you have side B, C, D, E, F, and the rest. And unfortunately, Tim Tebow falls on one side of that, where in his family, whether he went to college or not, him and his family were going to be okay. You can't say that for all the African-American kids, the Hispanic kids in the U.S. You can't say that, because unfortunately that word privilege always rears its head. a lot of those kids aren't privileged. They go into college for an opportunity, a chance to change a revolving door within their family. Now, of course, there are some kids that they had a stable family, their parents went to college, they're going to college, and they're trying to keep that ball moving. Those kids that are athletes, they have a change to generational change their family. If you're a college athlete at the right school and you're doing the right things and you have a chance for a professional sport, those millions is generational change, especially if you use it wisely and use the money how it can be used to help your family. Tim Tebow didn't have to deal with any of that. Second part of what Tebow is saying, the stadiums are filled because of the passion and all of this, yada, yada, yada. No, that's not it. The stadium are filled because people buy tickets. Also, the stadium is filled because college teams can have 100 players on their roster. Guess what? That 100 players got family. Not to mention the student body and the faculty at those universities that come to the games as well. And of course, your alumni. So it's not necessarily the passion that you have. Now, I agree, college football is way better than NFL when it comes to the atmosphere, the tailgating, all that is great. But unfortunately, Tim Tebow is on the wrong side of the metric here. Being an African American myself, knowing what a lot of these younger kids have to go through, I actually graduated college great. I think I was the first in my family on my father's side and my mother's side to graduate. So, hey, I started a new trend. My brother, my sister, they both graduated. So things looked up. I have some cousins, they graduated. Hey, that's how things go. But in America nowadays, these young athletes should be paid, one, because the NCAA is making billions and billions. And maybe Tim Tebow had to say some of the stuff he said because guess what? He actually worked for the SEC network for a little bit until he started going back to this baseball dream that he got. Everything that Tim did, he had a little short NFL career, but really what that was for was to sell tickets. He had a way of selling tickets, and the Denver Broncos had to use that for their advantage. The team, unfortunately, my favorite team, we wasn't that good, but somehow with him at quarterback, it put people in the seats, and we won some games out of nowhere, and games we shouldn't have won, and that's what happened. Tim Tebow, you're wrong in this situation. College athletes need to be paid, and unfortunately, they won't be paid equally. Hell, the people I work with, we're not all paid equally, and we probably shouldn't be paid equally. That's just the nature of the beast. Something is better than nothing when you come from some places like a lot of those athletes come from. Great show today, folks. Great show. Some fiery topics. Let's go ahead and get that quote of the day in, and we're going to get you guys out of here. The quote of the day this week is going to come from Don Zimmer. That quote is, "What you lack in talent can be made up with desire, hustle, and giving 110% all the time." One more time. What you lack in talent can be made up with desire, hustle, and giving 110% all the time. And that quote was from Don Zimmer. Hope you guys had a great show. Hope you enjoy college football Saturday night. I hope you enjoy week 2 of the NFL. Hoping we get some exciting games in. Until next week, folks, this is Cliff Jacks, Off the Cliff Sport, episode 34, signing off. Peace.